Hey guys, this is Locke. In this video, I'm going to be doing a in-depth calculation review, like attack calculation, defense calculations, damage increase and damage decrease, how all of these things put together, how they work. It's going to be a bit math heavy, so if you don't want to listen to all the details and explanations, I can just give you a synopsis of what are the best stats. The best things that you want to focus and increase is your attack and your damage decrease. Those two things will give you the best bang for your buck. If you want to figure out exactly why, you can keep watching this video and I'll give an in-depth explanation. So I'm going to start with a faulty calculation here to show you something. So let's look at this person's, my Stormbreaker's magic attack. It's 501. It's a nice easy number. I want to add this item to it. And this is going to increase your M attack by flat stats of 104. And then it also increases your M attack by 10%, right? So if you just do a quick calculation, 501 plus 104 is 605. And then I get another 10% of this 501. So that's another 50. So I should have 655 M attack. But if you've already figured out, that's not what I get. I actually get a little bit lower, 627. So why is that? And in this case, it's kind of obvious. It's because the stat of 501 is not really her base M attack. So every character in this game actually has two different base stats. One is the base stats on your screen, and the other is the base stats in the battle. And they're both actually really different. And I'll get into the reasons why. So if you want to figure out this character's base stats, first thing you have to do is unequip everything. And then the next thing you have to do is actually you have to remove the stats that you will get from the talent screen. So if you go to the talent screen, which I'm going to do here, you will see that she has 110 M attack plus 5%. So let's go back here for a second. I'm going to load into battle because we're going to go into battle soon. So she has 346 M attack. So if we take away 110 from that, that becomes 236 minus 5%. I don't want to do the 5%. We'll just leave it at 236, right? So 10% of 236 is about 24 attack. That's the main thing that we really want to know, okay? So we're going to be adding another 24 attack when we add that item, this item. Where did it go? This one, okay? So to look at it again, so she has 346 attack right now, including the talent screen. So we're going to add 104 magic attack from this flat stats, and then only another 24 attack from the M attack, from this increase in M attack by 10%. So that comes up to 474. And this is actually very close at 472. The reason it's close and not exact is because of the 5% that I did not add from the talent screen. Right, I said that there was a 5% increase that I didn't take into account. It's just too much. I don't want to get that into detail, but that's the reason why. So anytime you add items on the screen that increases your M attack, physical defense, M defense, these all increase it by your base stats. Okay, it's not even the stats on the screen. You have to actually remove the talents before you can find out what the base stats is. So so that's the first thing that you have to know. And once you're going into battle, you can see that characters have stats that appear here. This then becomes your second base stats into the battle. Okay? And why this is important is we'll take a look at someone else, which is going to matter a lot. Okay? So Gloria. So as I said before, 1168 is not her base stats. 1168 already has a lot of sorry, I'm looking at the physical attack. 1168 already has a lot of other stats from the talent screen and so on. But if we put her into battle, we will see what happens is 1168 is that it now becomes the new base stats in the battle. So let's take a look. So because of her her trait bonus, I'm going to click on her to show you. Her trait bonus increases her attack by 15%, right? So what is 1168 times 15%? that is 1,343. So this effect that that is affecting her in the battle is not looking at her base. It's not looking at her character base stats anymore. It's looking at her in battle base stats, and that is the stats that you see when you place her into battle. So that becomes her new base stats now. So you understand, that's why I'm saying that there's two different base stats, one on the character screen and one again when you put them into battle. So if I use this effect now, let me show you what it does first. It's going to summon a flag, which is going to increase her attack by 15%, right? And she's also, because of her trait, oops, she's also going to have potential burst. So her attack is going to increase by another 35%, right? So we can actually, so I'm going to put this attack and then I'm going to show you what happens. Okay. So her attack now is so let's look at all the different effects on her first, okay? So she has 15% from her trait. She has 20% from potential burst. She has another 15% from flag, so that's 50%. What is 1,168 times 50? That is 1,752. So she actually increased her in-battle base stats by 50%. This is so much different from her base stats on the screen, right? So the in-battle base stats is, first of all, it's good to raise that number as high as possible. And then secondly, the other thing that we learned from this is that in-battle buffs are very powerful because it uses, you know, your character base stats, right? Like not the character. It uses your in-battle base stats and amplifies it by a lot. So if you're putting, say, you know, if you have a 15% defense buff on you, that means that 15% actually increases your overall defense by 15% in the battle. In your character screen, it only increases it by, you know, like whatever your base stats is, which is actually a lot lower because you're getting so much benefit from your talents. You understand? So what I'm trying to say is that, let me reiterate. So your the buffs that apply in this game over here, these are very, very powerful because whatever you're going into your battle with, these increase that by a modifier. It's huge, a lot better than, you know, equipments that you put on. Your equipment might increase something by 10%, and that's going to be a lot lower than a buff that increases your stats in the game by 10%, like in the battlefield. Okay, so once we've gotten that, we can actually also take a look at how some of these calculations work. So I'm going to stand here and let the first turn go by, and then we're going to look at it to make it a little bit more easier and simpler. Okay, so she has an attack of 1,343, right? This ninja or phantom has a defense of 275, and it also has a damage decrease by 8%. So if I want to attack this guy from the front or from the side, the damage calculation is going to be her attack, so 1,343 minus his defense, 275. You take that number and you decrease 8% from it. So to do that, you can multiply it by 0.92. Why 92? Because 100 minus 8% is 92. And that is 983. I did the calculation. It does work. That is correct. I mean, if you don't believe me, you can test it out yourself as well. But that is the correct calculation. If I want to attack from the side or from the front, I get the same damage. If I want to attack from the back, this is actually, there's a multiplier here that increases it by 30%. Okay, so it's actually 983 times 1.3. That works out to 1278. How does skill damage work? So it's this base damage, 983, times whatever your modifier is. So times 20%, 1178. Okay? What about the back skill damage? It's again So if you go back to the previous number, right? So it's 983 times 1.3 to get the back damage, and then multiply again by 1.2 to get the skill modifier. And that's how you end up with 1533. So that's the damage calculation. Okay. Defense calculation, well, I mean, each point of defense decreases each point of attack by 1. And that happens before anything else. Okay, so if you have 1000 attack and 200 defense and nothing else, you're taking 800 damage. If you have a damage modifier, say you're using a skill, right? So it's 1000 minus 200, 800. That 800 is multiplied by 1.2. You know, you have a 20% skill. The opposite, right? Say you have a 1000 attack and you have a 200 defense again, so you're taking 800 damage. But if you have say you have a 50% damage reduction, that's going to negate the overall damage from that formula. So attack minus defense, so 800 times 50%, because you have 50% damage decrease. So now you're only taking 400 damage. Okay, that's how this works as well. So so damage, attack and defense is very linear. So what that means is if you have 500 defense, you are only going to be reducing the attack by 500. That's it. So if the boss has an attack of 5000, you take 4500 damage. However, if you have a damage decrease, that is an overall multiplier. So if you're taking, 5000 attack and you have 50% damage decrease, you're actually negating 2500 points of damage from that damage decrease. The damage decrease has a cap of 50%, but you can see how huge it is, because the more powerful the bosses that you're fighting, the more attack they have, the more the damage decrease is going to negate. If you only have, if an enemy has, if the enemy does 500 damage to you, that's only going to negate 250 damage. But if the enemy does 10,000 damage to you, it's going to decrease 5,000 points of damage by having a 50% damage decrease effect. And that is why I really like, building tanky heroes with damage decrease effects. Like I showed you my review for Magnus, for example, and I stacked a lot of damage decrease on him because that's a very powerful effect to have. I mean, you can also build him offensively as well, but the reason I built him defensively is because he has a lot of innate protection enabled in him, which I find very useful. But anyway, so so this is why damage decrease is so powerful, because the stronger the enemy is, the more damage you will negate by having damage decrease. And it actually, and this is the reason why I don't like defense as much. Well, it's obviously not as powerful, but also the more damage decrease you have, the less impact your defense has. Because, so let's take an example. Let's look at very, very easy numbers. You have 100 attack and 0 defense. So you're going to take 100 damage, obviously, right? If you have a 50% damage modifier, that's going to reduce the damage of 50%, so you only take 50 damage. If you have 20 defense, right, if you work it out, you take 40 damage instead of 50. So 10 of your defense is like negated because of your damage decrease. So if you have a damage decrease of 50%, every point of defense that you have actually only decreases the damage you receive by half a point, right? So that is why defense is not so good compared to damage decrease. Damage decrease, get it as high as possible. Defense, I mean, it's good to have, but it has diminishing returns. Especially the higher your damage decrease goes, the more your defense diminishes. However, damage decrease has a cap. You can only negate 50% as maximum. That's what a lot of different sources have said, so I'm assuming that's correct. I don't have enough things to test out to get more than 50%, so I couldn't test it out myself, but that's what I've heard. So because it has a cap, if the boss is doing 5,000 damage after damage decrease to you and you only have 4,000 health, you have no choice but to increase your defense. So there is a cap with damage decrease. After that cap for damage decrease is met, there's nothing else you can do except increase your defense, because that's all you can do. So for attack, it works the other way. If you have 100 attack and the enemy has 60 defense, right? So you're taking 40 attack and you multiply it by a scale of 1.2. If you increase your attack from 100 to 120, your overall skill increase is going to multiply that 20 attack by another 20%. So attack increase stacks even more with damage increase, right? So that's why attack is really good, because you're already going to have attack multipliers anyway, because you're using skills. Like this skill, for example, is going to increase your attack from 100 to 120%. So even if you don't have damage buffs, which you already do, there's a lot of damage buffs in the game, especially if you have Edda, you're going to give 30% damage buff to your team. There are other units that do that as well, that increase damage with many different effects. But damage, even if you don't have those things, you're already going to be using skills, and those skills are already serving as a damage buff anyway. So whenever you increase someone's attack, if you give an additional 100 points of attack, that 100 points of attack is actually multiplied again by 1.2 because of this modifier. So this is why, in my opinion, attack is a lot better than, defense, first of all, right? Because it stacks, it exponentially stacks with the damage increase, whereas defense has diminishing returns with damage decrease. Damage decrease. So that's how the formula works. I've tested it out many times with these, and that is how this damage calculation works. It is a bit, as I said, math heavy, but I will also probably make a post on Reddit to talk about the numbers and exactly how I get these numbers. So if you are having trouble following along and you want to see it written out, I will link a Reddit post to the end of this, in the comments, and you can take a look there to see how it works. But that is it for this video. I just wanted to talk about, explain the attack and defense, damage increase and damage decrease calculations in a little bit more detail. So as I mentioned, I tried attacking from the front and from the side. Usually they take the same amount of damage. Sometimes I find that they do not take the same amount of damage. And the reason they don't take the same amount of damage from the side sometimes is because they have a reaction or something, like an equipment or something, that is reducing the damage they take when facing the front. But no matter who it is, when they're taking damage from the back, they do 30% more, as you can see. See, from the front, 900 something. From the side, 900, same number. From the back, so much more, 30% more. The other thing that can mess this up is when you have units that counter each other. Like, Agrius is a watcher, so she will do a lot more damage to this guy because he is a destroyer class, right? So we have to look at that class effects as well. I don't remember exactly how much more damage you will do, but again, it stacks multiplicatively, right? So again, you have more effects that increase your damage, increase and decrease calculations. So because of that, as I mentioned, attack will be even more exponentially powerful, and defense will again have more and more diminishing returns because of all the different multiplicative stats that you have in the game. So anyway, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. If you don't really understand, let me know. I'll do my best to explain it better, hopefully in the comments. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope you guys have a good day, and I will see you guys next time.